What's up, everybody? In today's video, we're answering your questions and sharing everything we've learned so far making our first run at the Loretta Lynn's Amateur National.
Come along with us.
So today's video is going to be a little bit more podcast format. We wanted to take some time to answer some of your questions and go over everything we learned making our first run at Loretta's. If you are just finding us and have never watched our videos before, we have a full playlist on our channel showing our road to Loretta's so far. It's vlog style, so you can check out the playlist. We're gonna put it up here or over here somewhere so you can check that out. But today we are gonna walk through specifically 3 different things that we specifically learned, and we're going to share, what we would do differently for next time.
So the first topic we are going to cover is our overall strategy, developing one, implementing one, and kind of like following through with the strategy. From the second we decided to make a run for Loretta's, what we needed to learn, how we needed to go about giving ourselves the best opportunity to make it. And the strategy department 100% came from this beautiful human right here. So I'm going to turn it over to Gina to kind of talk to you a little bit about our strategy and what we did and what we might do differently on our next attempt.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, making it to Loretta's is a multi-step process. So step number 1 is to go to one of your area qualifier races and to get top 9 in that race. Step number 2 is to then attend your regional race within that area and to get either top 6 or top 4, depending on which region you live in. Once you make it in at the regional, you have officially stamped your ticket to Loretta Lynn's. So the way that we wanted to sort of look at this from a strategy perspective is breaking down the big goal into smaller, more manageable goals along the way. So for step 1, which was the area qualifier races, we took a look at the dates of all of the areas and had to decide how we were going to approach this. Now, we live in the Northeast in New York, so there were actually 2 of our local tracks that were hosting area qualifier races. However, those races were actually the last 2 in the area qualifier dates. So what we decided to do was to actually go one by one through the areas and plan to go to all of them if we had to make it in order to make it into the regional. So the very first area qualifier in our region was Budds Creek. And so we put that on the calendar along with all the consecutive area races. And our thoughts on that were like, let's just go for it, try to make it as quickly as possible, and then we can move on to step 2, which is prepping for and strategizing for the regionals.
And I just want to preface something here that we were right off the couch, meaning we haven't raced or really even ridden rode the bike for 5 or 6 years. So we set this lofty goal. We had no idea really what we were doing as far as mapping this out. But we went right into a national track for our first time in gnarly conditions, and it was it was a lot to kind of take in for both of us. And knowing the preparation that you need to kind of follow through as far as what we learned this year, that's something to consider. Again, as Gina was saying, the 2 races in our area were the last 2 rounds. So this is something that we're happy we did it this way, because if we had waited till the last 2 rounds to do it, there's no way we would have been prepared for the regional. So just something to keep in mind if this is your first time ever trying it, that we were happy we went to the bigger race, and it showed us what we kind of needed to do to prepare fully.
Yeah, and there's really two reasons for that. So one is that we went to the area qualifier that was first, and so we ultimately made it in, and it was March. So we had so much more time, whereas those other area qualifiers were at the end of May. So we had another month and a half to start prepping for the regional. And I mean, granted, this is all prep for the regional, right? Because you're going to different tracks and you're racing and you're practicing. So any time on the bike is preparation. But from a mini goal standpoint, that really helped us because we were able to, again, move to step two so much quicker because we were willing to travel and just go to whatever track that first area qualifier race was. And it happened to be a giant national track at Budds Creek. So it was great preparation. And so that's really the second thing, is that when you get to the regional, at least in our region, it's High Point. So that's another national track. So the fact that we had qualified at Budds Creek and then the regionals at High Point, it just felt like a little bit more preparation for us, at least, than just racing our local tracks and then going from local tracks to a national track like that. Okay, so then moving on to step two, which is prepping for the regionals. Once we made it at Budds Creek, we decided to go ahead and qualify, or try to qualify, in a second region. And so this is like a very controversial topic in the Loretta's conversation of like, should it be allowed that you can qualify in multiple regions? Should you only be able to qualify in the region you live in? And so we're not gonna,
This is not that video.
yeah, we're not really gonna address like our opinion on that really, but it's just something we noticed as we were doing research and learning more about the process of going to Loretta's. We realized that a lot of people actually will qualify in multiple regions to give themselves more than one shot at getting the ticket. So once we sort of realized that and we qualified for plus 45 in March, the strategy shifted into how do we now go and give ourselves another chance to make it into another region. So what we did is we went to East Fork MX, which is in Ohio, and we went and qualified in the Mideast as well. And so again, if you've never done this before and you're just, finding this video and this is the first time you've really even heard of the process of going to Loretta's, just know that you can, according to the rules,
As of the date of this
as
video.
of now, you can actually go to as many areas as you want and qualify for as many regionals as you want. Now, some of the regionals do fall on the same weekend, so you're gonna, have to look at that and schedule it accordingly, but that's how our strategy shifted. We, once we checked box number one, it became, okay, how do we check box number two now and get ready for the regionals? But also, what a great way to prep for the regionals than to go qualify in another area for another one. So that's what we did, and I don't think we would change that. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I definitely wouldn't change it, just because the more opportunities you have to race with the really fast people in your class, the more mentally and physically prepared you'll be anyway. So it was a great experience to go to Ohio and go to a different place. I've never personally traveled to race. I was always like kind of localized in my racing career. So this was super amazing as far as like an experience for myself and Gina, but also like the preparedness that I felt because we went to Ohio. And the second thing that I want to talk about from a rider standpoint is, regardless as to which regional falls in which order, even if, like, obviously the goal is not to use the backup plan. You want to try to make it out of your region. But having that kind of in our back pocket took a lot of pressure off of me at the first regional, which, again, this is my first regional experience ever. And I will tell you that, at least for me, it's a lot. It's a like pretty even keel, balanced mindset person. And it was like, it's an experience and it's an event, internally and externally. So to have that in our back pocket, the next weekend we had another regional. If this one didn't go well, mentally really put me in a good, confident place. And I feel like that helped me on the track also. So however you play it, if you're able to do multiple regions, again, I feel like we're going to do that again if we're able to next year, because it really did help.
The other thing I want to speak about is the dates, like you were saying. So last year, the Mid-East qualifier was actually before the Northeast qualifier. This year, the Northeast qualifier was first. And so it was interesting to see some of the people that had gone and qualified in the Mid-East the previous year were actually at our qualifier this year. So we're not the only ones doing this. A lot of people are doing it. And so it just increases your chances if you know, like, okay, this is the game, and we want to play. So how do we play it the best we can with what we've got and the resources we have and our like to the best of our ability. So that was just interesting to see. So it does depend on the dates too and where they fall. But we were really grateful that we had the Mideast one to go to, especially because so many of the people who had qualified in the Mideast last year were at ours. And again, that's where the controversy comes in of like, well, people from other regions are coming in and taking spots from people like from your region, and that's not fair and all of that stuff. But again, if it can go both ways, now it's like, well, we're from the Northeast now going to the Mideast to try to qualify. So again, that's the rules right now. That's the game, but it was an interesting thing to see, how some of those top 6 slots ended up shaking out in the different regions year over year, depending on the date order of the schedule of the regionals. The second thing we want to talk about, and this is actually something we get a lot of questions in the comments about, is Pat being on a 250 versus a 450. How was that experience? And is that something that he would do again next year if we were to make another run at Loretta's? And again, if you haven't been following our journey for a while, you can check out the video right here, picking up the 250, just to get an idea of how our journey started just 8 months ago.
So yeah, a big topic of conversation is the bike that I'm on, the bike that I chose, and what kind of my journey has been with that bike. Not just racing like the locals or coming back into riding, but like what has the journey been trying to compete at the Loretta's level with other people in my class. Now I raced the plus 40A and plus 45 class. We really focused on plus 45 this year, but we qualified out of the areas in both. And some of those areas were at national tracks. The first one was at, Budds Creek. The second one was at in Ohio, as we said earlier. And these are like bigger tracks, dug really, really deep, long uphills. Whereas a lot of our local tracks are a little bit shorter lap time, a little bit more hard pack, a little bit less kind of demand on the motor. And so the initial process of this was I chose the 250. I've been on a 450 my whole career, basically. I haven't been on a 250F or R ever. And so it's only been 450 for me, but I hadn't ridden in a really long time, and I wanted to. Loretta's wasn't an idea for me in the beginning. I just wanted to get back into riding and racing, and I felt moving my ego aside and getting on the 250 was the best opportunity for me to kind of relearn and kind of remove bad habits and learn some new ones. Without getting my arms yanked off as I was, learning. And then as we started out, Loretta's kind of came into view as something that we really were excited about. It hit us like a ton of bricks and we wanted to go for it. But here we are on this 250 and it's like, well, what do we do? So what I found basically is that at the local tracks, the 250F in my class, even though 90% of the other humans that I'm racing against are on 450s. The vet riders, like, it just seems to be the bike of choice. What my logic was basically that I would be able to ride the 250 for longer, getting less tired at the same speed as someone who's on a 450 trying to hang on for an entire moto, especially in the vet class. And what I didn't know, because again, you don't know what you don't know, is that for me personally, how hard I feel I have to work to get the bike to go that fast counteracts how easy it is on my arms, or how easy it is as far as like endurance goes. I have to ride the bike a lot harder to get it to go the same lap times as people who are on the 450s, who don't appear to be, and when I speak to them, tell me that they're not working that hard as far as the bike goes. So again, at the locals, not that big a deal. But when you're going for Loretta's, these tracks are dug deep these days. They want big ruts, lots of lines, uphill starts. High Point was it's a very deeply dug uphill start. And I was literally probably one of 250s on the line on a gate of 40 450s. And I have to be perfect, which is fine. It's that's not, but I'm not always perfect. So the disadvantage that I felt being on a 250 was enough for me to strongly consider testing and riding a 450 in the future and for our run next year. So we're actually going to be having really cool content that we're both so excited about. Comparing my lap times of the 250 with the equivalent 450. Am I faster? Am I not? Is it a good idea? So we don't know what we're doing next year, but we're gonna kind of share with you the journey through our videos. So look forward to those videos as they come out. They'll be coming out pretty soon because we're really excited about making them. So I'm gonna throw in a disclaimer here, a really important one. I'm aware that a better or faster rider on my exact bike, meaning what I'm saying here is it's not the bike. A faster rider, a pro expert level rider on my bike could clean up in my class most likely, even though some of you guys rip. I don't know what you're eating. But so a better rider can hop on my bike. It's not the bike per se. It's my ability on that bike, I feel is a disadvantage. My lap times are really close to the 450s once I get out on the track, which is awesome. But I seldom get to the first turn anywhere near first. And these long uphill, deeply dug starts. So what I'm looking for in these tests for next year is if our lap times are close to the 250 lap times on the 450, then it makes sense for me to train differently to be able to ride the 450 longer so that I never feel as though I have a disadvantage on the start. That's basically what we're going to be looking for here. So we're excited to kind of see how that plays out. That's the only thing that I think we would change this time, this next run, is the bike. Do you make a super fast 250F to try to compete with the 450s, or do you like detune a 450 so that you're on the same level playing field as everyone else? So actually, if you have done this, or if this is something that is, if you've been on the journey and you want to share, please share with us in the comments what you think we should do, or what has worked for you, because it is like all the buzz for us this season and coming into next, what we're going to do, what bike we're going to be on.
Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about was our overall goal setting mindset for this year. So we kind of alluded to this already, but we came in to this season just kind of wanting to get back on the bike, and as it progressed, we set a bigger and bigger goal, which was first to race the local races and maybe go for a title. And then it turned into, actually, let's make a run for Loretta's. So this really transpired very, very quickly. And so our goals were changing like rapidly as we were going along. And so our goal this year was really to make it to Loretta's, meaning make it in and line up on the gate. We thought if we can do that, like that would be amazing. That would be super fun. And we will feel that we achieved something big this year. Again, coming back from not having ridden at all to getting back on the bike again. And so what we would change about that now, like after going through the process, is we would actually set an even bigger goal. When we set our goal to make it, that was our goal, right? So we were training in hopes, if you will, that we would make it top 9 at the areas and then top 6 at the regional. Looking back now, in hindsight, what we would do differently is probably set the goal to podium at the area qualifier and then set a goal to maybe like top 20 at Loretta's. For us, like, looking at it now, if we want to be in the game, be at Loretta's, it would really be a podium at that area and then top 20 at Loretta's, which would mean guaranteeing a top 6 spot.
Yeah, so the mind is a really funny thing, especially when you're dealing with goal setting or a belief in yourself that you have to kind of cultivate. And my dad has a saying that's basically aim for the eagle, bag the pheasant, and don't eat crow. And similar to what Gina was saying, it means like whatever your goal is, whatever your aspiration is, even though there's a part of you that doesn't believe yet that you can have it or do it, make that the goal, set that the goal, and train and work towards that as being the goal. Even if you fall a little bit short, you are just exponentially, higher in your performance or in your level or in your achievement than you would have been if you set the goal in the middle. When I was starting the training part of it and Gina and I were going over the process, we had no idea where we were going to land when we went to Budds Creek. So the goal was to get top 9 because that gets us through. But when that is your goal and you're training to get top 9, like we didn't even believe that we were going to get top 9. We were hoping to. We ended up getting 4th at Budds Creek, and we were even injured and still got 4th. So now like the belief comes up a little bit, but you don't know until you try it. So like basically what I found is that this process is really so important, not trying to make it or not make it. Like that's part of it, but it helped develop us into people who now know we can do it. And inside of something that you want to do, like this goal of like, we want to be on the line at Loretta's, there's a lot of things inside of that goal that you don't maybe want to do. And so developing a belief in yourself is showing up inside of the parts of what you do want to do that you don't want to do so that you can become the person who is actually able to do it. And that's what I think the most valuable lesson is here. So changing our strategy for next year is going to be like a deep belief in ourselves to perform at the highest level, really not going for the end of what's going to get us in, but blindly like going for like, no, we want to try to podium all of these things. We want to be one of the people because the truth is everyone's fast and you have to be if that's what you're trying to do. And so because of that, to share an update, we want to kind of tell you where we are in the process. So we went to High Point for the first regional, the Northeast regional, and what an experience. You know, basically full gate of people who are just so fast and so talented and so dedicated. We ended up 9th in the first moto. Second moto was a crazy mud moto, and we got 11th. And then we went 9 again. So we finished 10th overall. And again, as you know, they take top 6. So we were pretty much like right outside where we needed to be. But it makes perfect sense as far as what we were just talking about, because if you asked either one of us what we really thought was going to happen, we thought we were going to be somewhere in the top 10. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't go there. We wanted to be top 6, but we went there and realistically, internally, what we believed we were going to get, we're like, I think we can run top 10. And that's exactly what we did. So this is, again, why we want to set the goals like a little bit bigger. So we were 10th at High Point. And then the next weekend, we made the trek out to Redbud, which was just a awesome experience on its own to ride that track, but almost like the exact same thing, carbon copy in a certain way. We actually got 6th in the first moto, which is like great. It's what we needed. Second moto, huge mud race again. I flipped upside down. We ended up 19th. And then the third moto ended up 9th, but we got 14th overall. So we're kind of like way out. So that's where we are regarding our spot. We are in an alternate spot, and the alternate list comes out soon, and we will see if we are picked, because you can get selected as an alternate to go if someone who qualified in a guaranteed spot can't make it or gets hurt. Hopefully not. So that's where we are. We wanted to let you guys know where we're sitting.
And for those of you, again, who don't know how the process works, it goes based on power ranking. So that is based on your finish position and the number of riders that line up at the gate. Now, the thing is, at High Point, there was not a qualifying race. There was just one pretty much full gate.
Right.
When we went to Redbud, there was actually a qualifier. There were 45 signups, so they broke it up into 2 races for Moto 1. So even though we got 10th at High Point and then 14th at Redbud, it all goes based on that power ranking score, which ended up being almost exactly
right.
the same. So we're basically sitting where we're sitting. We're in pretty much the exact position that, you know, we were in from one versus the other. And so what we do now is we submit the registration, and we hope to get a call, and we will of course keep you updated on that the second we know. If we made it in, you guys will know. We'll make a video and let you know what our plans are. So we would love to hear from you guys. So are you going to Loretta's this year? Have you gone in the past? Do you have any wisdom or tidbits of information for us? Leave them in the comments below. We would love to hear from you guys. guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We will be back soon with more videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.